Welcome to another episode of OG55 Live. We are joined by two very special guests, Candy and Steve from the Noble Way. They are joining us today. We're talking all about theme parks. We're going live up next on OG55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. We have a fantastic panel today with us. We're talking all about Tiana's. We're going to talk about Epic Universe. We're talk theme parks basically today and just kind of talk shop. We'll also be taking your questions and comments in the chat. But before we get started, I want to introduce my fantastic guests here. We got Candy and Steve from the Noble Way. Candy and Steve, welcome to the show. If you can kind of let everybody know what you guys do over there at the Noble Way and introduce yourselves, please.
Yeah. Well, she tapped me, which was the go-to symbol for you start. So I'll start off. Yeah, Noble Way. We've been doing this for a couple of years. We do, lots of theme park reviews. We do restaurant reviews. We actually go all around the world. Really, we go to different states, different locations, different countries, do different things. But we are local to Orlando, Florida, so we do a lot of obvious theme park, Disney, SeaWorld, Universal, news episodes, things like that. So we've been doing it for a while, and we got into it because we ended up kind of doing theme parks so much that it was kind of a no-brainer for us. It's like, hey, we're in the parks 5 times a week anyway. We should probably just record this stuff. So we started from there. How about you?
I'm Candy.
Yeah.
I am Candy. I'm Steve's wife. We've been together forever.
Too long.
Since I was 12 and he was 14. So we've been doing this a while. We have always, I didn't go to Disney World till I was 18, till I married him. He was spoiled, did everything like that, and Universal and everything. And he promised when I was a young teenager that he would take me to Disney World, and that's where we went on our honeymoon when I was 18 years old. Here we are.
That's the only reason she got with me.
Nice. I actually went to Disney World for my very first time. I'm a huge Disney fan, lifelong Disney fan. I'm out here in California though, so I always go to Disneyland. And this guy right here, George, he was gracious enough to treat me to a trip out there. This past summer and had a blast. I mean, it's a completely different animal over there in Florida.
Yeah. It totally is.
Absolutely. But I want to welcome you both to the show and make sure, and Seymour Duck, I do appreciate you adding their YouTube channel in the chat. Make sure everybody at home, you check them out on YouTube and give them a subscribe. And the Italiano, welcome back, sir. If you let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And, of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Stephen Candy, he's got his own little spiel going on. It's pretty spiffy. I like that, George. I like that. Slimer, welcome back, sir.
Hey guys, how we doing?
Very, very good. Very, very good.
Your intro sucked.
Yeah. Listen, I'll get it in 2025. That's a guarantee. All right, that's a guarantee. But you guys can find me on X at SlimeSquare84. I mainly talk theme park, Ghostbusters. Yeah, Halloween Horror Nights is coming up, so you will see that in my timeline. And I'm a contributor right here on Orange Grove 55. And Noble Way, thanks for coming on, guys.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Tiana's Bayou Adventure. From what I understand, you, Steve and Candy, you guys went on this recently. Is that correct?
Yeah, we finally got on it after a month of trying.
And how was it, Steve? I mean, because this has been a very contentious debate in the community, right? You've probably seen it like on Twitter and all social media in general. Very controversial from the announcement back in 2020. It's been 4 years basically in the making. You finally ride it. What are your impressions?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody caught my rant like 2 days ago about how aggravated I was that we haven't been able to get on it. I mean, I went on like a 20-minute rant on my channel. of how annoying it was. We haven't. That was my main gripe with Disney was just like it wasn't ready. Like, why did you open it if it wasn't ready? Like, you're making people upset. People are flying to go see Tiana's Bayou from other states, and they show up and they don't even get to ride it. So like, it's just crazy to me. But we eventually did get on. Yes, was it Sunday?
Eventually.
Sunday, I think. Sunday we ended up getting on after we waited like 3 or 4 hours.
Just like 4 hours.
It was a while, but I personally, I'll let you say. What did you think of it?
Oh, I absolutely loved it. And I hadn't looked at anything. Even when we went to Magic Kingdom, I wouldn't even look over that way. He'd be like, oh, look, there's, something going on. I'm like, no. I like to do everything for the first time. I don't want to know anything. And I had heard reviews, like mixed reviews about it. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to think about it. I absolutely loved it. Splash Mountain was my favorite ride. For the whole time I was at Disney. It was always my favorite ride. So I was really upset when they said they were changing it. But also Tiana is my favorite princess. So I was like, I think I might like it, but not as much. But honestly, guys, it was amazing. Like, it's one of the most beautiful rides, I think, that they have at Disney. I kept thinking that it reminded me when I was riding it. I don't know if you guys rode Navi at Animal Kingdom, how pretty it is, like just the colors and everything that's going on in there. It reminded me of that. And that's what I kept thinking of. But I was not disappointed. I was excited. As soon as we got done, I was like, I want to ride it again, which usually doesn't happen for me. So yeah, I loved it.
Can I ask you, because a lot of people were saying online, especially after that horrible Disney POV, it just was not done properly. But a lot of people were saying that there's a lot of open gaps between scenes, a lot of darkness. Can you confirm, since you actually wrote it, is that true?
Okay, so that's one of the first things I said to him. Well, the first thing I said was like, I love it. Oh my gosh, I want to write it again. But the second thing is if I had to say something about it, there's downtime in between the scenes where there doesn't need to be downtime. I mean, you see pretty like bushes and trees and flowers and stuff like that. And once again, kind of like Navi, there's not a lot going on at Navi, but it's still pretty. But I do think they should add things in those gaps. Yeah.
It's kind of if you've read Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland versus Pirates of the Caribbean in Disney World, depending, you may have different perspectives on which one you think is better. So like Disney World, when I first read the one at Disneyland, I was like, man, I think this one might actually be better than the one at Disney World. But then when she was writing, she was saying, I think the Disney World one is better because there's less downtime. Yeah. Like, there isn't as much stuff, but there's less downtime. And I was like, you know what, you're actually right. And that's kind of how Tiana's Bayou is. It's like Splash Mountain was action-packed. I mean, action-packed for a ride that's going through the woods with a bunch of little animals. But like, it was action-packed, meaning there's things to look at the whole way through the ride, even if those things are like a little turtle on some water bouncing up and down, right? Like, whereas this was like, there was more space to kind of breathe between scenes. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I feel like when we first wrote it, we were like, I think they could have put more stuff in it. But I'll be honest, I was ready to go in there and rail it. I mean, I really was. Like, I was ready to ride it, and then my expectations were like, because I've been hearing things, and I loved Splash Mountain, I was ready to just be like, yeah, I think this is going to be a dud. And I walked off that ride and was like, man, I was blown away. Like, I actually loved the ride. I thought it was amazing. The end scene is just like, like I was trying to record it, so I was kind of mad because I felt like I was missing it while I was trying to record it because there were so many things to look at in that sort of last scene that, I don't know, like I'm kind of a fan, to be honest. I was a fan, and I was not expecting to be.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. That's really cool. You know, we have a theory. We have a theory here. We've been talking about it on the channel where we talk about those gaps, right? Where there might not be enough in certain areas, and we think that because Disneyland's Splash Mountain is a smaller show building, and I'm curious to hear what your guys' opinion on this. We were thinking that maybe like Disney Imagineering ordered a certain amount of animatronics based on like the size specs of Disneyland Splash Mountain. So when you put that amount of animatronics in a bigger building, it's going to have more space. Yeah. You think that's a possibility, Steve?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there's easily space where they could have put some things. One thing that I thought was kind of kind of I wasn't a fan of was there was one particular like screen that was built in where it had sort of like Tiana kind of popping in, and I thought that was weird to me. That was kind of like it felt like it was out of place, and I don't know if they were trying to cover a gap because there was one later that had like the fireflies going by, which did feel natural to me, but there was another one. So I don't know. I feel like it's definitely. I also think, to be fair, the animatronics that they put in it are probably a lot more expensive than the animatronics that Splash Mountain had in it. And there's been a discussion around are those the right animatronics, right, versus the hydraulic versions of it, and with all the humidity, and is this going to cause a lot of breakdowns and issues, and is this going to be really costly to maintain? I don't know the answer to those things because I'm not an engineer, but for me, it's quite possible that they put so much into some of the animatronics, they really just couldn't afford to put that throughout the whole ride. So maybe there will be a phase 2. Maybe phase 2, they'll start adding more stuff in the spaces. I don't know.
No, go ahead, George.
No, I was just going to ask, as far as the storyline goes, when they first announced with Tiana's Bayou Adventure, it kind of seemed like there was going to be a whole lot of scripted story, based off of Tiana, after the events of the movie with her restaurant and business and the salt mines and everything. And then it seems like, from what I've understood by watching the videos on YouTube, is they kind of scaled back a little bit of that storyline on the ride itself, but you can kind of get the storyline in the queue line. Do you feel that there's not enough story in your opinion? Do you think it's just enough as far as in the ride goes? Because a lot of people are saying that they don't really understand the concept of like shrinking down to the frogs and then growing back again. I think a lot is kind of like misinterpreted.
Lost in translation or whatever.
Yeah. I said that to him as well. But I'm a really bad person to ask what a storyline is on the ride. I never pay attention. I don't know what it is. ADD. I don't know. So I've ridden Guardians of the Galaxy so many times, and I still don't listen to the story, and I probably never will. So I'm a bad person to ask, but I was like, was there a storyline for Tiana's?
So that's perfect. So in the end, do you think it even really matters? Do you think as long as it's a good enough ride?
No, I loved it.
Yeah, like that was sort of my opinion. Like I got off the ride and she asked me that. I was like, to be honest, there's not really much storyline. There's really, there is a storyline with Splash Mountain, right? It's kind of like he's escaping and then they trick him, and then he tricks them, and he escapes and all that. But like, there definitely wasn't like a sense in the ride. There's no villain, right? There was no sense of like doom and gloom. There wasn't really even a sense of like, wow, we're about to go over some giant waterfall, right? It literally was just kind of like cute and fun. And to me, I was okay with that. Like, I felt like the attraction was still so enjoyable because it had music from the films, it had characters from the films, and it was really pretty. And it still is the same ride, right? It's the same log flume attraction that goes through the same ups and the same downs. So is it fun or not? That's what I try to gauge things on, like, how much did I enjoy it? How fun was it? Versus like, how cohesive was the story, right?
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever gone into a ride that I can't wait to ride this ride to experience the story. Right? Well, it's on my list. It's more like I want to, and if there happens to be a story, I'm like, cool, that was pretty cool. But for me, the story was kind of not there. You have to really dig for it. I didn't even get that we were getting shrunk down until Mama Odie comes on the screen and says, we're going to put you back to normal size now. And I was like, oh, I totally missed that we even got shrunk.
I was like, oh, we were supposed to be little?
So I think that's okay, too, because, maybe you need to ride it a few times to really get it, right? Like Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, I mean, you got to ride that a couple of times, I think, before you even realize what's going on. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was white knuckle on that ride the whole time.
Steve, you brought up a really good point in that video, and I did watch your review of Tiana's the other day. And, the whole point about whether we judge a ride, whether it's a good story or whether it's really fun, it's almost like so obvious that we've all overlooked it, and everybody's judging this thing on, well, does it have a cohesive story? And you're absolutely right. I've never come off a ride and said, wow, they had a really good story. It's like, hey, did I have fun? Was it great? Was it awesome? Was I bored? Those are the things that we judge rides based off of. Right. So this entire tangent that it seems like a whole division of the Disney community has taken on, well, does it have a story as good as Splash Mountain? Like they've completely lost the plot when it comes to what people go to theme parks for, as opposed to, like, Candy, you were saying that your son's a screenwriter, a scriptwriter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna go in there and he's gonna put it under a microscope.
He's gonna rail it. He hasn't written it yet, but he will absolutely 100%. He'll like it, but he will rail every single thing about
Yeah,
that.
he'll pick it apart.
Now, my daughter wrote it, and a lot of their friends, boyfriends, wrote it on Sunday, and they all loved it.
Yeah.
But I know what my son's gonna say.
I get it. Like, legendary creators in Disney, Tony Baxter, all these people, with you think about the Haunted Mansion, right? Like, that's just like, there's a story, and everybody gets upset because with the Hatbox Ghost earlier in the ride, which is like, why is there a Hatbox Ghost before they even do this, the seance or whatever to like bring the ghosts out? And I get it, but like, do I still enjoy the ride? Yeah, I do. So like, why does it matter? Like, I don't get on Space Mountain and go, man, I can't wait. What's the story of Space Mountain?
Well, and here's the other thing too, is how many normies actually, like Disney nerds like us, we pick up on the storylines, all the story beats, like the Hatbox Ghost, all that stuff, even Splash Mountain. But a normie going on Splash Mountain, do they really know the story, or are they just going through and looking, oh, there's a cute turtle, and oh, here's the drop? Like, how much do the normies even invested in these storylines? And even some of Disney's best attractions have next to no, like you said, Steve, Space Mountain, no storyline. You're in a rocket in outer space. Even Big Thunder, you're just on a train. You know what I'm saying? There's not a whole lot of complexity with a lot of this stuff,
No, I agree.
I don't know what happened, though. I do feel like I got a lot wetter on Splash Mountain.
I was soaked.
I don't know if they raised the water level.
They definitely did. I don't know what they did, but I
got hosed.
Yeah, we were really wet. Now, my daughter said they're like, oh, we kind of got wet. I'm like, okay, well, I was drenched, so.
I brought the wrong camera, I can tell you that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask you guys, because it's been in the news, or at least in the community and stuff, about the breakdowns. About it's been going down. It was breaking down a lot a few weeks ago. I feel like it's sort of been calming down with the breakdowns as of late. I could be wrong though. I haven't really been watching it too closely. But what are your thoughts on the breakdown, Steve, in terms of this thing going down? And is it unusual? Is it, in your opinion, kind of normal for something new like this, or what do you stand with it?
For me, it's not normal. I mean, I'm not saying it's never happened in the history of Disney, but like in modern day technology, I was doing this thing about like, it was down for a year and a half in a retheme. But don't get me wrong, this is a big ride. Like, this isn't like retheming, I don't even know, something smaller. But it's a big ride. It's not like Maelstrom, when they rethemed Maelstrom, right? Like, that's a good example. So I get that there's a lot, but like, they didn't fundamentally change the ride vehicles or the track. So I can't for the life of me figure out what's wrong. Splash Mountain used to go down periodically too, but not like this. And I know they're not stopping the ride because an animatronic is busted, right? Like, oh, the screen's not working or the animatronic's not moving. Let's shut the whole ride down. Because there's lots of people that went through it and they saw things that were broken and they just kept rolling. So I cannot figure out for the life of me what the problem is, other than Splash Mountain was like running on a shoestring budget for years and years and like about to break under the pressure of all the things that were needed to be fixed with it. And then they didn't focus on fixing those things. They just focused on the retheme. Because otherwise, I don't know what's causing it. But from what I've seen, it's still breaking a lot. Like, it was, opening day, the day after opening day, it didn't even open until afternoon. And when we were there, it was down. Like, it ran for about a half an hour in the morning, and then it was down for 3 or 4 hours. So I don't know. I do think they're fixing some stuff. It's getting better, but it's not normal. It's not normal. Yeah, in my opinion.
What are your thoughts on that, Slimer? On the breakdowns and everything, and the frequency and what have you?
Well, it's so funny you mentioned that. And guys, I don't know if you guys follow what is his name, Jude the Disney dude. Do you guys know who he is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So we actually had him on, and he was telling us that, according to operational engineers, that WDI and operations didn't exactly agree on the opening day for this ride, which is June 28th. Okay. Operations basically said, hey, look, we want this ride open on June 28th, and it's a hard deadline that you guys have to meet. And the reason is, and I think you guys will agree, it's the end of the month. You have all of July, and then August is Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. So they really only have a month of a window for people to enjoy this during summer vacation before they kick into Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween mode. So what's funny is a friend of the channel, Caitlin, she has a friend that's an engineer on that ride, and she independently said the same exact thing. that WDI was pressured into hitting a deadline because they wanted it open for August. And so that's pretty much, I mean, that to me pretty much tells the obvious, like you're saying exactly what these people behind the scenes are saying. And so it's really no big secret that operationally, this thing was not operationally in order before the wide release. Now, personally, I think they should have left it closed, maybe done like a late opening, open it for Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, which if I can go ahead and ask you guys, do you guys think that this ride is a prime ride for them to do a Dr. Facilier overlay to bring something new to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party? Do you think they're going to do that? Or do you guys think that Disney is pretty much done with any voodoo magic or has written it off completely as something that maybe, is maybe a little too edgy for the festivities over at Mickey's Not So Scary?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would be cool. I think it would be awesome. Voodoo magic definitely seems to be in Universal's camp more than Disney's, but hey, it's part of the movie, right? But so I think it would be prime for it. It kind of needs like a cool. I would like for them to be some sort of cool villain or like some sort of peril. Like you're going through something. I think it would be neat. Will they do it or not? I don't know. I really don't.
They won't.
I feel like they probably won't. If they do an overlay, maybe it'll be something different, Halloween related.
Of course, they won't do it. It would make too much sense.
Yeah, something more like Tiana is looking to make her favorite pumpkin beignets or something, right? That's
Exactly.
the way we're gonna get. So, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what they will do, and trust me, it'll come out. The announcement will hit around D23, and you'll be closer than you think, Steve, with that prediction. I think.
People won't go crazy for it. They'll be like, "Yes, pumpkin beignets over. Let's go 4-hour waits." Yeah.
That's wild. That's wild. Well, I'm glad you guys liked it. That's cool. That's encouraging. We don't get ours out here at Disneyland until I think like maybe November is what we're hearing, ish around there.
Yeah.
And we'll see. It might get delayed because if there's issues, they might have to readdress some things out here. So we'll see. But I want to turn now though to Epic Universe. They've been dropping some information. I don't know if you guys have been watching those. Like they're going land by land, Universal, right? With the I think they started with Celestial Park. They did like a little 5-minute like little video on that. They did the Dragon Land, and the most recent one is Dark Universe. We did a video the other day about Dark Universe. It was a reaction video to the Poseidon Adventure video where he was talking about like, are the Universal monsters like too niche, right? And it was actually interesting. He made interesting points. A lot of people in the chat, including Slimer, made really great points as to if they are, if they're not. What are your thoughts on that in terms of Dark Universe? Do you feel like this? Because it's an older thing, obviously, it's 100 years. Do you feel like that's a safe theme for this park, or do you feel like it's a little bit on the risky side?
I'll answer because she tapped me again. I'm trying to like take up all the time and not let her talk. She tapped me because she knows Epic Universe is like it's my jam.
Yeah.
Like I'm all over it, right? So, but here's the thing: Universal needs some IPs that people can people can enjoy and relate to, and it's a long-standing like nostalgic thing. They need to start building up IPs like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, because those are the things that are like not only drawing kids in, but they're drawing generations of people in. And Universal hasn't really had that. They've had some things, Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, they license certain things, but they really need to continue to build up IPs, even if those IPs aren't huge yet. But like DreamWorks is an example of that. Universal Classic Monsters, right? And you've got these things that they continue to create. Minions is another good example that like people can relate to, and they maybe even think about it from their childhood, or their kids will start thinking about it as they get introduced to it. And so for me, Universal Monsters, like I've never been like a huge Universal Monsters fan, meaning like I didn't watch the black and white versions of them when I don't even know if that was before I was born. It's been a long time. But I have obviously seen the newer stuff about Universal Monsters. And it's in every Halloween Horror Nights. It's constantly in their merchandise. It's in their shows. Dark Universe, it's an IP that they want to build up. And I think it's a good move, personally. I do think it is somewhat niche, meaning niche with regards to the number of people that are going to be excited to go do it.
Yeah.
But it will become less niche as more people experience it and go, man, this is fantastic. And you know that people are clamoring for that dark stuff that's different from other theme parks. And so that's why people get so excited about Disney Villains Land, right? If they talk about that, people go crazy for that. So I do think it is going to be a huge draw. And I think it's going to make people fall in love with that universe. And I think it's going to give Universal a leg to stand on to continue to expand that universe. And as long as they do well with expanding it, I think it's a huge, it's a smart move, personally. But
that's interesting. No, actually, that's an interesting kind of perspective, Steve. Because my thing was okay, are they popular enough? They're recognizable, right? But does recognizability necessarily equal popular, right? So for example, Felix the Cat is recognizable. Everyone knows Felix the Cat. But if we release a Felix the Cat movie, is that going to do well just because he's recognizable? Not necessarily. But you bring up a great point where it's you kind of reverse engineered it a little bit. They're maybe not so popular right now, but we build the land and they get popular from the land. And then now, once people are familiar with it with the land, now we can start doing maybe a Frankenstein show on Peacock. We can do a Wolfman movie or whatever. So interesting perspective. What do you think of the Italiano in terms of the monsters and relevance and in regards to this whole?
So
part?
For me, I'm looking forward to Dark Universe. I think out of all the lands that they had announced, this is the one I was most interested in because it's something unique that. Even though, yes, it's something that we're used to seeing during Halloween Horror Nights and what have you. It's basically a permanent Halloween Horror Nights, land. But I do love that dark, edgy side of, for them to take a risk. I kind of wish that Disney would even do that with the villains. And as I said before many times, if Disney does anything with villains, I don't want to see no cookie cutter Candy Crush version of the villains. I want hardcore villains. but for Dark Universe, yeah, yes, Steve, you do make a great point that I think if it's something that people aren't really interested in or maybe not too sure about, I think as the word gets out and the land opens and people that has good reviews, I think honestly it could potentially gain more traction, because honestly I feel like that's what happened even with Pandora. Even though Avatar was a huge success as a movie, I think once the movie was done, it was like a one and done. No one talked about it ever since. And then when Disney announced, hey, Pandora's coming to Animal Kingdom, we're all scratching our heads how is that going to work? But it wasn't until that people actually went to go and experience it, and then word of mouth got out. Now it's one of the most popular lands, not even just in Animal Kingdom, but all of Walt Disney World. And now they're going to make a Pandora on the West Coast, for the Disneyland Resort, so.
Well, and Steve, you also bring up a great point too when you talk about Disney's really good at facilitating the Mickey Mouses and what have you, that cultural kind of branding, and getting out there in the culture. And this is actually the perfect brand for Universal to do that, because these monsters really built that studio, and so this is kind of like Universal's equivalent of the Disney princess, basically, so they're going back to their roots. And if they can hit a home run with this land, which we talked about a lot on the channel, we think they will. I mean, it looks impressive enough where it's like the Pandora thing. If you don't have to like Avatar even to love Pandora, So I think it'll be the same here. You don't even have to necessarily love these monsters, but you're going to love the land because it's so well done. So I think it'll be a brand win for them, absolutely. And this is core Universal. This is what they should be leaning in on. I've been kind of critical of Universal over the years because I tend to think they kind of rely a little bit on other people's IPs with Mario and Potter. It's kind of refreshing to have an in-house Universal, a thing that's not just in-house Universal, but a thing that is Universal's DNA, so important to the studio, kind of being the focus and doing it so well. I mean, they're putting as much care into Dark Universe as they did with Potter, and I love that. So it's interesting.
And now, can I ask you both really quick, since we're on Epic Universe?
Yeah.
With Dark Universe, they had mentioned in the video, they're taking a risk with it because this is, especially with the Monsters Unchained Frankenstein attraction, this is going to be kind of like a top-notch kind of intense ride as far as on the scare factor goes, and they said this is going to be almost like a borderline PG-13 kind of attraction. So be very cautious if you have little ones under the age of 13. You know your child's limits or what have you. Do you think that that's a risk for Universal to kind of play just to a certain demographic? Not saying, because not everyone is going to be able to experience the ride based off of the scare factor. What's your take on that?
I don't think so, because Universal is already the more adult-friendly park, I feel like. So they already have Halloween Horror Nights. There's like some PG-13, like the show. I always forget what it's called. That's definitely PG-13. I think people know going in, if it's Dark Universe, it's probably going to be more kind of like Halloween Horror Nights. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Universal's more of the adult-friendly park anyway.
Yeah, I am on the same page. Like obviously it's a little bit of a risk, but I don't think it's a big risk because, like she said, Universal's not known for like their like kids stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like they're trying to be more known for their kids stuff. That's a big gap in their offering, is they need more kids stuff, and that's what you can tell they've been investing a lot in building more kid friendly stuff, but like. The non-kid friendly stuff, that's their what's the word? That's their bag, right? Like that's what they are. And so for me, I'm more thinking, I love how they created a kid friendly ride in the Dark Universe about werewolves. Like
nightmares.
Hey, kid friendly ride, have a good time. Werewolves. That's the one that I think is more the like concern. But I think for me, the Frankenstein, Monsters Unchained, I mean that's their bag. That's what they excel at. I feel like that's a home run.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, you got to play to your strengths. And Universal, other than getting rid of their rides every 20 years, like a TRL host back in the like, remember the TRL host? You used to see him, and then you did it. You're just like, what happened? Oh, they turned 25. They got rid of him. Yeah,
cut from the team.
Yeah, cut from the team. 25 going on 26. Too old. But yeah, they get rid of the rides so often over there. You're absolutely right. They need to start playing on the nostalgia, and they're doing it really heavily this year with Sensational and the Mega Movie Parade, and adding the Universal Monsters to that roster is just going to strengthen that nostalgic brand. And the other thing operationally, and just from like a cost point, it means Universal's not going to have to retheme or redo a ride every 5 to 10 years now. So in the long term, this is going to save, they're going to have that upfront investment, but in the long run, it's going to save them a lot of money, because now they can just focus on maintaining existing attractions for decades and decades the way that Disney World does. And that's going to be really smart. And then, like you said, they're trying to balance both at the same time. Universal Studios is turning more into like a Magic Kingdom with Minions and DreamWorks. And that's going to be the kid park. And that's going to be maybe not the kid park, but like that's going to be the family park, right? Mm-hmm. Islands of Adventure is going to be for people that might, that think they're thrill seekers but aren't really sure. But it's going to have a little bit of everything there. And then Epic Universe is going to be where you go if you already know what you want and you want the biggest and latest and scariest attractions that Universal has to offer. And that way, I don't know if they're thinking this way. That's just like how I view what they're doing with the parks in terms of what attractions are putting where. And that's what I think Universal's approach is going to be moving forward. Now, let me ask you guys this, and I don't know if this is a good question or a bad question, but what do you guys think as far as and Steve, you actually really did a good video the other day. We were talking about Universal Studios versus Disney World, and you were talking about how like taking away all the perks of Walt Disney World Resort actually will place Universal's benefit. Universal actually does have a lot of benefits right now when it comes to like the proximity to the parks, to City Walk, to Epic Universe, and things like that. Do you guys think that Epic Universe is going to do any damage to any Disney World park in particular? And do you think that it's going to be a long-term thing, or do you think it's just going to be like a year or two, first opening year, and then it's just going to be business for usual for Disney?
I think it'll be an ongoing hit to Disney. I don't think it's just going to be the first year. I think there's a lot of people already turning away from Disney, or kind of turning away from Disney. But once, I feel like people will come down for Universal vacations, not Disney vacations, for sure.
Yeah, I hear so many people reach out to us and say, we used to always be Disney. It was a 1 to 2 week trip to Disney. Now we go to Universal, and that's going to even compound more and more, because it will go from being like, you can do Universal and Islands of Adventure, City Walk, all that, Volcano Bay in a weekend, really. If you try hard enough, it's a weekend. Epic Universe brings a whole week, if not 2 full weeks of fun in addition to that. So for me, I think it's going to be a hit to Disney for sure. But I don't think it's a bad thing. To me, it's a good thing, because competition breeds excellence, or whatever you want to call it. Like Universal succeeding is going to make Disney succeed more. Disney succeeding makes Universal succeed more, because they just keep going back. SeaWorld is getting into the mix right here in Orlando. It's like the more competition, the better, because it makes them have to be better to get your money, to get you to attend their parks, to come to their hotels. So I think it'll be a hit to Disney for sure. I think it'll be a long-term hit. The parks that I see will be hit the most is going to be, I think, Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom. I think Epcot and Magic Kingdom will still keep riding the wave pretty easily. I mean, Epcot's got its festival things going on. This just ain't going anywhere. And then Magic Kingdom has got locked on family. I mean, it's a lockdown on family. It will change over time, though. But I think those are the ones that are going to take the hit in the beginning.
Do you guys think that there's a possibility of some cannibalization within Universal's own parks? Like, for example, Epic opens and families have to, because right now Orlando as a theme park market is really kind of getting saturated. There's only so much time people have on vacation. Is it possible that it cuts from Universal's own route? Like, people go, okay, we'll go to Epic this time, and we'll go to the studio, but Island of Adventure doesn't really have a whole lot for us, so we'll skip that one. Is that a possibility, you think, or is that kind of unlikely?
I have some speculation that I think Universal definitely knows that that's the case, right? I think that they know that is a big issue. So I believe, and this is total speculation, I have no confirmation, that I believe in the beginning they are going to push really hard for packages. Like, if people want to go to Epic Universe, like, they're going to be pushing for like a package thing, a VIP thing, whatever you want to call it, where they're bundling things together and either giving you like good price points for those bundles, or something along that line, instead of pushing the allowance or even pushing single day tickets to Epic Universe. Like, they're going to want, because that's what's going to happen. People are going to come in for just Epic and then they're going to bail. And so I do think that's a risk. I think Universal has a plan for how they're going to manage that, mitigate that risk as much as possible. And I also think as soon as Epic Universe opens, Universal is going to completely pivot to improving Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure, right? Because I've talked about the whole back of the house, right? If you've ever watched any of my videos, I say the most important thing that Epic Universe is bringing to the table is the new back of the house operations space that they're creating over there. Because what that enables them to do is, instead of having to demolish attractions at Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure to put something new in, they can demolish some of the back of the house buildings, create space for new attractions, and build new things there, in addition to enhancing current things. So they're going to start dumping all their effort into bringing Universal and Islands of Adventure. Things like the Sinbad building are going to go bye-bye. Poseidon, right? You've got that huge theater space over in Toonland. They may even do a complete redo of Toonland over there in Islands of Adventure. So they have tons of space to work with that they can actually start making progress on, and they can add new spaces without having to destroy stuff. So I think that's going to be their play. And then we'll see maybe a couple of years after that, more investment in Epic Universe, expansion of lands, maybe a new City Walk, maybe a fourth park or another water park. But that's the way I see it rolling.
What's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen with this Marvel situation? Because Disney owns Marvel now, and Universal has the rights. I mean, it's a forever contract basically. I don't think it ever expires. You think there's ever a chance that they're going to work something out and they're going to get those Marvel rights back, or you think Universal is going to hang on to that?
If I was Universal, I'd be gripping on that thing as tightly as humanly possible and never letting it go until I decided there was something better to replace it with. And I don't think DC Universe is it, at least not in the current state. Not that I'm not a fan of DC. I'm not. Anybody who's a DC fan and just got mad at me, don't get mad, because it's not that I'm not a fan. But what's the reason? There's no reason until that land starts to not produce fruit. There's no way they're going to get rid of it.
Oh, I'll say it. DC just straight up sucks. But anyway, for me now, I kind of see it the opposite way. I would think that Universal, well, I do agree with you in the sense where I think that they'll utilize that land when something perfect comes along that they'd be able to utilize, because I believe under that contract, Universal can maintain that land like spruce it up, make it look, but they can't actually add anything new to Marvel under the contract because Disney owns it. So that kind of gridlocks them into doing anything with that land. So hopefully, because I think that would be a win-win. It would be a win for Disney, but I also think it would be a win for Universal that, instead of that park or that land specifically kind of being stagnant and kind of outdated,
sure.
That they can kind of maybe get something else in there that's more relevant. Although I will say, though, Spider-Man is still one of my all-time favorite attractions. I mean, I don't care how old that attraction is. It's perfect.
I mean, there's a reason that ride got best theme park attraction for like 10 years running. I mean, I remember the first time I ever rode it when it first opened.
Yeah.
I'm like, you've never seen anything like that in your life. Like, it's just like, this is the greatest ride that's ever been made. So, yeah, I'm with you.
100%. I was there opening year. I'm sure you guys were there opening year, and you got off the ride, and you just had to take a second and just process what just happened, because literally there was no ride like that in the entire world, and it was just like, what happened? You had to get back on it, like, right?
And I was like,
what, did that really just happen?
And I was like, whoa, okay, now Disney's going to make a Spider-Man ride for Avengers. I thought if Universal did it, I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see Disney's, and I thought like we were going to get the pendulum swinging kind of thing, like where we're swinging. I thought, oh my god, this is going to be awesome. No, they put us in these oversized toaster ovens, and it's.
Yeah.
Hey George, you got to show Steve and Candy. You were on Web Slingers recently.
Yes,
and the woman next to you. You got to tell the story.
So I was at Disneyland recently. I went in through the single rider line for Web Slingers. And they put me with this family that never was on it before. They have no idea what's going on. They didn't even speak English. Like, they didn't know what was going on. So the ride starts, I'm doing my thing, and there's 3 other people sitting next to me. They're all literally right down the row. They got their arms out and they're going like this. And I'm just like, and I'm swinging. I'm looking, I'm like, what in the world? And I'm trying to show them, look, see me, look, see, this is how you do it. And no, the whole entire ride, they're going like this. And it's like, okay, I have to carry this whole ride because I'm the only one getting points here.
That's fantastic. No, but I remember that announcement for the Spider-Man ride at the D23. I think it was in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. And I was like, oh, this is going to be dope. I'm like, there's no way Disney would announce a Spider-Man attraction if they didn't think they can top Universal. I'm like, this is a ballsy move. They're going to come out to the 9s with this thing. No, it's totally wrong.
It's rough. Yeah.
And I don't like any ride where I have to get tired on. Like, I'm lazy. Like, I don't want to work. I just want to sit on the ride and enjoy it.
Although she did finally figure out how to max out Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blaster, so she's been going hard on that. So don't get it twisted.
Nice.
That gun and having to shoot the whole time. I'm like, last time I didn't even get a gun. I was like, I'm just gonna stand here.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, some of them, like Midway Mania, is a very comfortable experience. I can tell what I'm shooting, and it's weird though. With some of these other ones, like Astro Blasters, I can't tell where my little red laser beam is going. Not
at all.
I just want the sticker. I want the max out sticker. If I don't get that every time I ride it, I get mad.
So now our final topic of the evening is Bob Iger. I wanted to ask you guys, because it's been kind of interesting, right? The first time he was CEO, it's kind of funny. The first time he was CEO, he kind of crushed it with the parks. I mean, we got Cars Land, Pandora, a ton of good stuff, And then even California Adventure got a $1 billion remodel, and it turned out great. And then Chapek got in there, right? And then he got fired, and now Bob Iger is back. And there is a little bit of residual Chapek in this situation for sure. So it's kind of hard to delineate exactly. But like Steve, what are your thoughts on, like, do you think Bob Iger can bring back Bob Iger 1.0 magic to the parks, or is that Bob Iger gone?
There's 2 things. One, so there's a couple of things. One, I think that Bob Chapek got a lot of things. People associate a lot of things that happened in that period with him, when actually it was things that Iger potentially had in motion once he got in there. So I feel like he gets the bad end of that stick. But there's a lot of things that I always call him Bob Paycheck, and it's really hard
I
for
was
me to
going to say, are
actually
you going to
call
say
him.
what you
It's hard for me to call him Bob Chapek because I call him Paycheck so much. But he did a lot of crazy things. But Bob Iger, man, that's a tough one because he did a lot of great things. I just don't think we're in the same theme park landscape now as we were in his heyday, personally. So it doesn't feel to me like maybe he's the right person to lead them in this new landscape of theme parks. I'm not saying he can't do it. I just don't see it happening. I think it's time to turn the reins over to somebody different that maybe can do something else. But they may do worse. But I don't know that it's Bob.
Well, yeah, and you make a good point. I think sometimes you get to a point where you burn out. We saw it even with Michael Eisner. Those first 10 years with Michael Eisner, he was he was really going for it and doing amazing things. The last half of his 20-year tenure was not so great. He kind of burnt out, and I think we're kind of seeing a little bit of that with Bob Iger. But what are your thoughts on this, Slimer? You think they could actually? You think we can get Bob Iger 1.0 back, or do you think it's more or less going to be the next CEO that's going to have to do it?
My dogs are barking. Go to George.
George, what say you, sir?
It's like right now, Bob Iger 2.0, I'll just say that, is like he's like a wild card right now. Because I think one of the worst things that he ever could have done was jump ship at the time where the world was in chaos. The company was very vulnerable. He hands it off to Chapek, and it's like, here you go, and honestly, to Chapek, if someone threw me in that position and I really wasn't ready or prepared or trained in that matter, I don't know exactly what I would do in that circumstance. But I think that Chapek wouldn't have even been good one way or the other. And I think even Bob knew that, to run the whole company of Disney. I could see Chapek running, because he was great with consumer products. The way that he handled things there. I think like if he ran like Pepsi or Hershey's or something like of that nature, I feel like the entertainment giant of Disney, I just think that was not Chapek's forte. And I think even Bob, even Bob Iger knows the fact that he made a tremendous boo-boo with that. And, I think that he would try to fix it, but never really admit to the fact that he was part of the problem. So he just kind of justifies it by trying to fix as much as he possibly can. But I do think that we could possibly see some light at the end of the tunnel, because I really, truly don't think that he's going to leave the company under the matter that he was part of by kind of leaving it stagnant. Because we all know Bob Iger, he cares about his legacy. And the fact that it was tarnished the first time, he has one more shot, because once he leaves, there's no more coming back. So whoever he appoints as the next CEO, they have to be spot on. Not saying that the next person isn't going to make mistakes or bad decisions. We're all human. It happens. But you still have to have someone who knows the company in the sense of knowing how to run it.
Yeah, so. Well said. Slimer, what say you, sir?
So, Bob Iger had the benefit of having Bob Weiss as the Imagineer head of WDI. And Bob Weiss was really known for telling Bob Iger, the other Bob, no, like we have to not budget cut this attraction, because this attraction is going to need as much money as possible to make it exactly how we want it and exactly the experience that fans we want them to have. Once Barbara Boza came in, you pretty much had two people that were like, yeah, absolutely, we should cut corners and save some operationally or save some capex for later. So you had, the head of WDI, and then of course the CEO and the CFO. They're never going to say no to decisions that are going to save the company money. And when you had Barbara in there with Bob Chapek and Bob Iger, it really doesn't matter either way. They didn't have that pushback from the creative saying, hey, no, we really can't budget cut because we need as much money as possible to make this right. Now that Bruce Vaughn is back and he's the head of WDI, they did not bring back that official title that Barbara Boza had, but he is the chief of WDI. What Bob Iger needs is exactly what Bob Weiss is doing is somebody to say, no, we're not going to budget cut this. We're going to do it exactly like we told the fans, right? Because during the last D23, they actually made some promises about what they were going to bring to the parks and Disney did not deliver on those promises. And they literally, like their words, not mine, say, hey, we're promising you, we're going to bring this. And so they really need somebody that's going to say no and hold the C-suite accountable for the next 10 years. I guess that's how long this new expansion project is going to be. And like George said, this is Bob Iger's last lap, and he's going to want to sprint to the finish line, and he's going to be relying on his creatives to prop him up as the great Bob Iger, so that way when he leaves, he has a legacy that that he's not going to want anybody to touch his legacy. In other words, he wants to be the greatest CEO since Walt Disney. And what executive wouldn't? I mean, I think that's a pretty reasonable expectation to have as somebody that's running a company like the Walt Disney Company. And I really do hope that he does. I really do hope that he does stay open-minded when it comes to the resistance that he gets over creative. But what we're seeing with like Splash Mountain, that's not it. So 2025 is a new year. And let's see how he allows Walt Disney Imagineering to play. He really just needs to give him the sandbox. He needs to give him the funds like they do over in Oriental Land Company and say, hey, guys, go ahead and play. Because if they can do that, I guarantee you it would be nothing good for Walt Disney, nothing but good for Walt Disney. And Steve, like you said, with Universal right now putting up Epic Universe, they really need to be in a competitive mindset and not in the mindset of, hey, let's cut corners because our quarterly earnings are going to be this much better. Our shareholders are going to be this much better. That's not the mindset to have. They need to have the mindset of OLC over in Japan and Shanghai, which is, sky's the limit. Let's make dreams happen.
Absolutely.
And that's my 2 cents on that.
Well said. Candy, any thoughts on Bob Iger 2.0?
I don't know. I feel like because the world is different now, I hate to even say that, but it's actually true. After the world's different. And, he came back and he did make a few changes or went back and be like, we're not going to do that anymore. But to his credit, I mean, the world's different. I feel like some people are afraid to step out and maybe that's what it is, but I think he'll end up leaving a good legacy for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He was amazing. I don't really want to, I would never want to take away all the things that he did that were amazing. It's just the thing about now is, and you said it about the D23, like I personally, and I think a lot of people are like, D23 and why? What should I even pay attention to that? Because half the stuff you talk about in there, you never even do it, or you do it in some busted way that isn't even resembling what you said we were going to get. So it's like you don't make promises if you're not going to keep them. I think that's the problem. That just don't make the promise. People would be happier if you just didn't do that, and then but you're setting yourself up for big time failure, and that's rubbing people the wrong way. I look at Epic Universe, and I'm like, man, don't get me wrong, it's not open yet, but I go over there, I take video, I film stuff, I look at what the progress is, and the things that they said they're going to do, they're doing. It matches. It's not like here's the concept art, and then we're gonna pull the rug out from under you, and here's what we actually gave you. It's the same thing. It's like mirror, and actually some of the things in the actual part look better than the things that were in the concept. So Disney just needs to get back on track with that, and they've got to be better about listening to their fans. That's where I feel like maybe they do listen, but I don't think people feel like they're listening. So if people don't feel heard, then you don't feel valued by that brand, and then you say, you know what, if you don't value me, then I'm going to go somewhere else. So those are the big ones.
And speaking of listening to your fans, Disney, I know you're listening. Please, so just hear me out right now. For all that is holiness, please, for the love of God, do not put Zootopia in the Tree of Life, please. Please. I mean, I'll go in it if you do, but that's beside the point.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, and here's the thing too, and this is a great point where it's like you're right, Steve. They broke a lot of the trust with the fans. I think especially when we call him Daddy Josh, because he's so dreamy, right? Everyone loves Daddy Josh, but we've been really critical of Josh because he gets on that stage. And then he does all this blue sky stuff, right? This is what you could have. Maybe we're kind of like focus grouping this thing. we've had like 2 expos now or something like that. I think like 2 expos and even a Destination D that where he did that kind of stuff. And then you got the Epcot stuff where they showed us all this artwork and then it didn't pan out like that. It was very drastically different. So we're getting to a point now where, even with the parks division, where it's almost looking like Lucasfilm, right? Where Lucasfilm, they'll announce a movie, a new Star Wars movie, and fans are like, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it, right? Yeah, when you start filming, then I'll believe you, you know? And we're kind of getting to that point with the parks, and that's not a good place to be. That's really not a good place to be. They have to, we talked about it, George, I think in a recent video, right? Mm-hmm. They have to get up on that stage, not only announce big things and get fans excited, but they have to somehow instill confidence that these things are going to happen the way that you promise them.
Mm-hmm. And if they're good, and if they're waiting till they get approval on finances or, you know, permits or what have you, honestly, one thing that they could bring back, which I'm for sure all fans would go gaga for, I know I would, is bring back the Magical Express. One, I don't even know like why that was even taken out, and the fact that it's not even brought back in some odd shape or form. I'd be happy. I'd be a happy camper.
Yeah. Sure. I agree. I'll take a Year of a Million Dreams. Bring that back.
Yes, that was my favorite.
Whatever it was called. Wasn't that it? Something like that. Year of a Million Dreams. That was my favorite year ever in Disney. Like, bring that back.
We walked into the Nemo ride, and we had all our kids with us, and they handed us fast passes for the whole rest of the day.
Yeah, I mean
they just need to do that, like the Disney magic.
It's not that we want stuff. We just want magic.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. There's magic. There's magic. Like, it happens. Like, I'm going to tell you a story real quick. I know we're running out of time. When we were waiting for Tiana's the other day, I had a horrible interaction with a cast member. Like, there was a cast member that literally came over and started talking to another cast member very loudly, knowing that we could hear what she was saying, basically saying, because we were sitting near one of the umbrellas who I had already talked to a cast member about and said, hey, do you mind if we sit here? We'll be on the corner. It's a little bit of shade. I don't want to take up your space. Like, are we in your way? And she's like, no, absolutely. Sit there. No problem. And then this other cast member came down and started like going off on us and talking about how like we shouldn't be in this space. And I can't believe they're doing that. And I'm just like, wow, that wasn't very magical. And so, but then on the other hand, I'll get magical experiences where cast members are just like super jolly and jovial. And it's like, that's what I want. And the other cast member was apologizing to the other cast member. I looked at her, I said, you know what? We all have bad days. We all go through a lot. It happens. I'm not crazy upset about it. But it was like not a great experience. And that's, I think, what people remember about their trips is when there's something not magical. They forget all the other 10 things that were magical and they only think about the one negative thing, and then they go online and they blog and they post about it. But I would say we shouldn't do that. Like, try to focus on the things that are magical, because there's tons of stuff in Disney that are still magical and amazing. And you just have to look for them. You just have to be there for the right reason.
I do agree with you. I do love when, you know, those magical experiences happen, but also too, the greedy side of me is I do want stuff. Like, I want to like check into my Disney hotel, and I want Disney to hand me like an iPhone 15. Like,
yeah, there you
go. Would you like a back rub, George?
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, Noble Way, Steve, Candy, thank you so much for coming on. I had a great time talking with you. Everybody at home, make sure you follow and support them on YouTube. And you're on Twitter as well, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
All of our social channels aside from YouTube are The Noble Ways, plural. One word, because for some unknown reason that was taken. I have no idea why. The YouTube wasn't. So it's The Noble Way, except everything else is The Noble Ways with an S. There you go.
Not complicated at all.
Perfect. And I will be, after the show, I'll be linking all their stuff in the description. So make sure you check it out down below. Italiano, I will start with you. Where can they find you on social media, sir?
You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There you go. Here, George, I'll give you a yeah, buddy.
Yeah, buddy.
There you go. And Slimer, thank you so much for joining us, sir. If you can let everybody home know where they can find you on social media.
OG, thanks again for having me back on. And Steve and Candy, it was a pleasure talking to you guys. If I ever see you in the park, you'll hear me say, hey, Noble Way. But hey, Will, let's hang out at the park someday, man. Let's kick it. We'd have a good time.
And their reaction would probably be, it's that guy.
But you guys can find me on X at SlimeScore84, and you guys can find me here on Orange Grove 55.
Perfect. Yes, and down below, like I said, in the description, make sure you follow the Noble Way on YouTube and all their socials. I'll be having it in the description down below after the show. And thank you all so much for watching. Comment down below with all your thoughts on Epic Universe, Tiana's, Bob Iger 2.0. What are your thoughts? We would love to hear from you. And until the next time, have a great